If you don't know who that is, I bet you probably use something that he invented. So that's Reid Hoffman. He's known as one of the oracles of Silicon Valley for his incredible investment portfolio of Facebook, Uber, and Flickr, just to name a few, and he's also the co-founder of LinkedIn. So here's a couple things you can learn from Reid. Number 1, solve the simplest, easiest, most valuable problem. So similar to Derek Sivers, your business idea does not need to be complicated. It just needs to solve a really, really valuable problem. Number 2, give your mind an overnight task. Josh Waitzkin does this a lot too, and I'll explain who he is later. But all this means is he gives himself something to think about right before he goes to sleep, and then right when he wakes up in the morning, he brainstorms exactly on that question. So pretty much is how you link your conscious and your subconscious mind the easiest possible way. Number 3, move faster. Way faster. You're going to make mistakes, especially if you're starting a startup or starting a business or trying to reach out to customers. You're going to make mistakes, but as long as you're moving quickly through that process, it's all worth it. Number 4, the best team never accepts your first plan. If they're a really good team, they'll be constantly making new suggestions and modifications to whatever your original strategy was.
People are not looking at their money because they're failing there. And what you won't look at, you will fail at. Like what you don't talk about, you will fail at. Whether it's sex, relationships, goals, dreams, money, whatever you refuse to talk about, you will have trouble with. And we didn't talk about Grant's drug problem when he was 15, didn't talk about it when he was 16, didn't talk about it when he was 17. It doesn't get any better because you don't talk about it, it gets worse. And so the things that trouble me in my life, I need to confront, I need to look at, and I need to pay attention to. Whatever you pay attention to will get better, and whatever you ignore will get worse. And so I would start looking at your checking account every day. If it's got 0 in it, look at it every day. Look at it until you're freaking like, I cannot stand looking at this at 0. If you don't like your weight, look at your weight every day until it fucking drives you nuts. Be disappointed. There's nothing wrong with I want to be disappointed in me until I'm not.
Do you guys know who this billionaire is? If you don't, that's the billionaire investor Peter Thiel. He's invested in people like Facebook and a bunch of others. He's also written a really good book, 0 to 1, and he's also an entrepreneur. So here's a couple things I've learned from Peter. Number 1, there's no need to wait. Peter's always looking for ways to compress his time, probably because his time is so valuable. So he always tells people to ask themselves, if you have a 10-year or even a 5-year plan, ask yourself, how can I get this done in 6 months? Number 2, you never want to be a part of a popular trend, especially if you're trying to found a company. If you really, really like a company, like say you really like Facebook and you wanted to create another social networking site, that's great, but there's at least 8 others that exist just like it. Don't follow a popular trend. Number 3, ask yourself questions. Ask yourself why you're doing something. Ask yourself, are you passionate about this? Ask yourself, do you really like this person? If you don't ask yourself those questions, no one probably will, so you should do it. Number 4, ask yourself, is this true? People talk a lot, and the internet is full of people who want to share information. Always ask yourself if it's true. Number 5, look for unique opportunities that others just don't see. That's where the best business ideas come from. Do you know who this is? If you don't, that's Mark Andreessen. He's one of the founders of the modern day internet, and he's pretty much a legend in Silicon Valley. If that wasn't enough, he's got 750,000 followers on Twitter. I should probably also mention that he co-founded Netscape. So here's some things that I've learned from Mark Andreessen. Alright, lesson number 1, be expensive. Derek Sivers talks about this too. The more expensive you are, the more likely you are to help people. Pretty much from just the placebo effect. The more people are willing to pay, the more likely it'll help them. Number 2, find a good devil's advocate. Mark is known for finding really, really good thought partners who can pretty much bash his ideas. And what he does after that is if he still stands by his ideas after they've just been bashed by some of his closest friends, he knows it's something he needs to pursue. Number 3, always forward. If you're an entrepreneur, you're going to fail, and you're probably going to fail a lot. Just keep going. Number 4, study your opposites, especially people that are very, very different from you. It'll just give you a different perspective and it gives you a lot more ideas. Number 5, do original work. Do your work. Do something that you want to do. Don't just copy people. Do your own thing. And number 6, don't put people on pedestals, especially your idols. Your idols and the people that you really look up to are absolutely no smarter than you.
Top 5 richest billionaires in the world. At number 5, $59 billion, Larry Ellison, Oracle. At number 4, $67.5 billion, Warren Buffett, Berkshire Hathaway. At number 3, $76 billion, Bernard Arnault, Louis Vuitton. At number 2, $98 billion, Bill Gates, Microsoft. And at number 1, $113 billion, Jeff Bezos, Amazon.
Do you have any idea who this is? Well, you really should. He's the B word. Not the bad B word. He's a billionaire. That's Matt Mullenweg. He's the founder of Automatic, who created WordPress, and that's pretty much what a third of the internet runs on. If you've ever created a website, you know exactly what WordPress is. So here are the things that I've learned from Matt. Number one, always think what if. Matt's an extremely long-term thinker, and I think a lot of really successful people are. He always thinks, if we do X today, what does it look like tomorrow? What does it look like 5 years on the road? And then what does it look like 10 years down the road? That's long-term thinking. Number two, you're out of in-person parent time. There's something that Matt talks about a lot, and he pretty much realized that when he graduated high school, he used up 93% of his in-person parent time. So any of the time that he had after that, he really cherished. Number three, make it easy on yourself. Matt got in shape by pretty much only committing to doing one push-up a night. No matter where he was, he just had to do one push-up, and that was enough to motivate him to start working out a lot more. Number four, slow down. He talks about this all the time. He talks about a lot of the mistakes he made in his youth were mistakes of ambition, not mistakes of sloth. Just slow down.
If you're younger than 30, and especially if you're younger than 25, don't let anyone think that you're too old to go for your dreams. But Mark Zuckerberg started Facebook when he was just 19. Yes, but you don't have to compare yourself with the youngest billionaire of all time. Trust me, most people don't do shit with their lives. So just the fact that you're watching this video means that you're far ahead of pretty much everyone. Go for your dream.
So if you watch Shark Tank, you know exactly who this is. And if you don't, that's Chris Sacca. He's an early stage startup investor who has invested in companies like Twitter, Uber, and Kickstarter, just named a few. And before that, he was the head of special initiatives at Google. So here's just a couple things I've learned from Chris. Number one, get back to your own to-do list. So many of us get caught up trying to please everybody else, and we forget about the things that we've always wanted to do for a really long time. Start working on those things. Number two, get around as many high-level individuals as possible. When he was just an intern at Google, he used to sit in at the executive meetings, and when they walked in and saw him there, they'd be like, "What are you doing here?" And he would just be like, "Oh, I'm here to take notes for you." And they just got used to him being around. Number three, ask dumb questions. When you get used to something and you get knowledgeable about it, we kind of forget to ask the things that are obvious and in plain sight, and half the time that's usually what solves the biggest problems. Number four, be your unapologetically weird self. So many of us have our weird little quirks that make us original, and that's what sets you apart. Don't be afraid to be you. Number five, remember, a good story always beats a good spreadsheet.